The Oconto Falls School District is asking a federal judge to toss out a lawsuit that accuses multiple former teachers of sexually abusing students over the course of 20 years. In a new court filing, the Board of Education says it is not defending sexual misconduct, but argues the district cannot be held financially liable for what it calls reprehensible behavior by a few employees. The lawsuit claims the district should have known about the abuse and violated Title IX by failing to act. The district counters that Title IX only allows damages if an administrator with power to intervene, that is, actually knew about the misconduct. It also argues many claims are too old under the statute of limitations. Oconto Falls is asking for the case to be dismissed with prejudice, meaning it could not be refiled. Sparty Law Group releasing a statement to Action 2 News saying in part, quote, the district's argument that a child's right to bodily autonomy is not a constitutional matter is not only legally flawed but morally bankrupt. We look forward to the court's ruling and to finally securing justice for these survivors, end quote.